Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Good morning. Welcome to everybody who finds it equally weird to me that the Toronto Blue Jays have become America's team.
Okay, that's an interesting thing.
You can't root for the Dodgers. You just can't.
Oh, man, Dodger Blue. Is it much more?
$600 zillion bought team. You know.
It's either that or banging on trash cans.
That's better.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to that later in the program. Maybe we'll finish off with that. That's funny though. All right, as everybody's, my mantra now is resist. Okay. We can go for a lot of different things. All right, so we were getting back to things. We're a day later than normal. I had some other things I'd take care of, but today's a little bit of a foul weather day out there. Pretty wet and rainy. Noticing also it's now that deer mating season, so they're going crazy out here. I don't know where everybody else lives. Maybe that tune in now or tune in later. But if you've ever been a part of deer mating season in a suburban area, kind of a thing like that, you have to be very careful, really, from dusk to dawn if you're out driving or anything like that, because they're out there, they're running around. You can hit them, and if the car hits the deer, chances are even if you kill the deer, your car will sustain major damage.
Yep, that's correct.
So those things are not. Most of them are not small.
Right, not small enough anyway.
They're not small enough. I mean,
the scariest thing I ever had happen to me with deer was the Needwood golf course there in Redlands.
Well, yeah, it's Needwood Road, but it's off. There's Redland Road runs on the other side of it, so kind of bounds Redland Road to Needwood and also
there in Rockville. And
right.
So I was out there one night, and just as it was starting to get dark, and I mean there was 200 deer. It was this time of year. They started running around. Then they would run all one way, then they'd all turn around and run the other way. And it's like they don't see you, right? They're just running. So it's like, well, one of them just plowed me over, So I picked up, and that's one of the few times I'm like, I've had enough golf today. I'm gonna go on in, not finish tonight though. Because that was scary. It was frightening.
My biggest thing about deer is just in terms of, I try to avoid them just in terms of if I'm out not in the car but just outside, is that I guess I worry about things like deer ticks or something like that.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. But
it's a problem on golf courses because they're golf courses. A lot of them have streams and lakes and stuff, which is deer travel along creek beds. That's how they move around. So you get a lot of deer ticks and a lot of stuff like that.
So let me ask you this, because if there's things I would list as part of a list of the bane of my existence, besides deer, it's geese.
Yeah, another golf course thing. Some of these golf courses are pretty funny about it. They get a dog. They hire a dog. And the dog's job is to chase the geese. Any of them he catches, he's free to eat.
Good for them. So I only mentioned the deer because it came out at dinner last night. I was out with some friends, and one of them was mentioning how this is it for the deer. They're going crazy and stuff like that. And I don't recall, but this guy I guess probably knows better than I do. He says that in D.C. there are midnight snipers that take out the deer down by the mall and places like that. But then he looked at us. He says, "Well, of course, for you in Montgomery County, it's a different story." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I still have burned into my memory. I don't know how. It's been decades. When I was not living on up in Gaithersburg up here, but when I was living in the Silver Spring area, where I would read stories about how the county they wouldn't shoot the deer. They would just move the deer. They would airlift them with helicopter from one area to another. I'm like, you're not solving the problem.
pretty expensive too.
Yeah, it's expensive, but it's like,
Deer.
yeah, it's like you need to thin the herd. You don't need to move them around so they can just start over in another place, and now you've got them in a couple of places or whatever. It's like, you can't. This is just ridiculous management by Montgomery County. And the geese, yeah, you can't do a darn thing about geese. They're just like everywhere. It's just ridiculous. I mean, yeah, golf course, any big patch of land like that, like a golf course, you see that. People who've got a large yard out here in Montgomery County, you drive by their house and there's always flocks and everything like that. And it's like, okay, I would never touch that house. I would never touch that land. Ugh. Anyway, so so much for that. Hopefully I think it's clearing up a little bit. Hopefully it'll be a better day tomorrow. So we're right on the cusp of Halloween. So as I went to the National Day calendar, of course, it is National Candy Corn Day. Do you like candy corn, Brian?
Because of course, I'm fine with it. I don't eat much of it, but I don't hate candy corn.
Okay, so as a kid, I loved candy corn for whatever reason, and I particularly like the one you can get like regular candy corn, and then you can get the kind that had a different taste to it. It had like a black stripe on it or whatever, and it was a slightly different flavor. Anyway, so so we eat a lot of that. It's like, but now it's like, I think you'd have to just about pay me to eat candy corn. It's like, when you ingest so much of that in your childhood, it's like, nah.
Yeah. I'm like that with chicken pot pies. I don't want any more chicken pot pies.
Well,
all good.
Yeah, all good. Well, I ate a lot of spinach when I was growing up, kind of the Popeye the Sailor Man thing.
Yeah.
It never bothered me that much. I wasn't crazy about it, but my mom just kept feeding it to me. I will eat spinach, but it really needs to be mixed in with other things. I mean, there's some dishes that my wife serves, Korean dishes and whatnot, that spinach is part of the ingredient list, and that's fine. But I am not eating like a side serving of spinach. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I probably should be, but I just can't do it anymore.
I got you.
And yet my life is flipped, because when I was a child, my mother wouldn't serve me certain vegetables like broccoli or cauliflower. I don't eat a lot of cauliflower, but I eat a fair amount of broccoli because I've eaten so much of Chinese broccoli, and stuff like that. That it's like, you serve me broccoli, I'm fine. I don't reject it outright.
Yeah. I am never going to be serving it to you, but if you serve it to me, it's all right.
Then there's cream corn, which I haven't seen forever. I assume it still exists, but I don't know if I can touch that stuff.
I love cream corn. Lori forbids cream corn. Gotta sneak around.
Yeah. So that's what's great about America, right? I mean, we have all these foods and all these things, and all of us have different tastes about some of and our food preferences and stuff. No, I won't touch this. And stuff like that. I mean, we were at a Korean restaurant last night and kind of introduced kimchi to one of the people there. It's like, I think he took a little bit and that was it for the night. He just focused on the main food. So, which is fine. It's like, because, at my age, I'm only starting now to finally will myself to eat kimchi in small doses. So, I figure, probably will help me at my stage of life, not hurt me. And I just mix it with other stuff, and I don't even feel like it's what I thought it was.
There you go.
All right. So lots of stuff going on here. Javier Milei, he won this election. Which was great because, this was one, I think the media and the Peronists, they were hoping to capture some of the seats back in their parliament. It gives him more control now of the government. The peso, I believe it rallied. Trump has been promising him, a boatload of money to backstop the peso and everything like that. But if the peso rises, then they don't necessarily, we as taxpayers may not need to step in as much. And it was
the Treasury Secretary said yesterday that we already have that we fronted them $20 billion, and we've already made a profit on that. I don't know how he figures it. That's all I saw of the story, but that's what he said. And so, I would like to see how that claim, what he means by that. But, yeah, it looks like that we bet on the peso, and the peso's rebounded pretty
Yeah.
healthily.
And I will say, I mean, part of the problem in South America and a lot of these other countries is kind of this runaway inflation, which has been horrible for a long period of time. And I found a chart that showed that from September of last year, it was 209% in Argentina, and it's now down to 31.8%. Now, there are people out there to be like, they'll be just gasping like 31.8% inflation when we're dealing with about 3% inflation. But if you've gone from 209% inflation to 31.8%, you have made great strides.
Yeah,
This is a constant problem in these parts of the world, is to control inflation. Now, it needs to be far lower, but the trend is going in exactly the right direction at this point. Milei as a Trump acolyte, I mean, he's showing the people there that what he can do. I think we've talked before about how he's gone through and he's really cut the size of government and done a lot of things. He's been able to do more there. I think there's fewer bureaucratic hurdles than we face here to cut the government. So he's been able to actually downsize a lot of things. There's a lot of pain points in there, but it's for the betterment of the country overall. And the people there are seeing lower inflation, which is going to be better for them in the long run.
Right. Austerity programs. When somebody comes in and says we're going to cut a bunch of government, it's an uneven record, right? Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think it really helped Trump that Trump backed him at this. I think it really helped that Trump had done this to some degree in the United States before. I mean, we've cut a lot of agencies here, a lot of DOGE, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, Department of Education. We have clamped down on that. We've gotten rid of USAID, Corporation Public Broadcasting. All kind of agencies all over government that we've either eliminated them or defunded them down to the point where they don't do anything. So Trump's kind of shown that it could work. Now, what Milei has been more on the austerity, on the what do you call it, Vienna, Austrian School of Economics type of setup than Trump has. Trump is a straight up populist. And, so now, instead of Trump opening the door for Milei to do things, Milei in a way is opening the door for Trump to do things, to be more focused on deregulation, on eliminating government, on downsizing things, on reducing the cost, size, and scope of government, and, pushing things in what I consider to be the right direction.
Yeah. So that's one of the things there that looks good for the first time in quite a while in Argentina, and maybe set a model for that part of the world. But you've also got to get the right leader in there that's willing to go and do that, and that's
right.
That's the other
that's problem. A risk, and you might end up on the spit.
Yeah,
it's a risk. So he had the courage to fully do it. Right. I think one of the things that happens, one of the things that drags these efforts down sometimes, is that the people don't believe in it enough, and they don't trust it enough, and they give up on it too early. I think a lot of people around Reagan did that. A lot of people around Trump in his first term did that. And so, a program that could have worked ends up not working. But in this case, he didn't have he has a pretty small coterie, right? The people around him, it's not a big bunch of people. And they're all committed to the right idea, right? And so that kind of focus has sort of allowed them to actually profit from what is usually a kind of distasteful thing to do.
Yeah, and this election victory was fueled in large part by the people in the slums who have been diehard Peronistas, and they turned against the Peronistas and supported Milei. So that, I think you get to a point when you're just down and out poor, you're broke, you got something has got to give, and give someone else a chance. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have this situation that goes on in a lot of these parts of the country where you just there's almost an endless cycle of poverty that goes on. You have slums that are just cannot be imagined
Yeah. And
for
what
America.
has happened though is like the poor have given up on the left, right? That's what happened here. I mean, you see, 57% of Hispanics, 45% of blacks supporting Trump, right? I mean, there was the ballpark of that was about 8 to 15% before Trump of black support that was possible for Republicans, right? 15 was a huge achievement. 8 to 10 was about what they usually got. I think he got 8 the first time he ran. So, but now he's in the 40s. He's in the 35, 40, 45 range, right? How does that happen, right? It happens because the poor gave up on the left. It's like these charity programs do not, it doesn't fix our problem, right? There's still criminals out in the street. There's still people, I can't let my kids play in the yard. That's one of the things, like, I don't know if you've noticed these interviews with these places where, both sides are doing it, right? The places where the National Guard is, it has been deployed. And so both sides go out and, the left gets people who hate it. The right gets people who love it. But one of the things the people on the right keep saying over and over and over again is, I could let my kids play in the yard. And I think about, like, when I grew up, if I wasn't allowed to play in the yard because I was worried about people getting shot, I mean, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that I would have handled that well at all, right? Because it was so far outside our expectations. And these people just, it's the way things are. We got to do it. And so now they don't have to do it. The relief is just palpable. It's all they can talk about.
Yep. All right. Another international. Well, we got a couple. Actually, I didn't throw this one in there too. I mean, so Japan kind of solved their situation. They have their first female prime minister, very much in line with Trump.
Very touchy-feely with Trump too. She was kind of like all up against him.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a certain amount of women that are attracted to him, and I guess power and all that. But
yeah.
he can get girls. I think he's got a proven record on that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's I mean, money, power, whatever. It can attract a lot of females, and yeah, I think Japan. I mean, under her leadership, at least for now, will be firmly in the kind of the Trump camp, and they've shown their willingness to go ahead and put money into the U.S. and things like that. So that's that's a positive development for U.S. Japan relations, and I think that's her goal, is to make sure that they stay that way going forward. But we've seen this. We've seen these stories before too. This is that these governments can flip on a dime, and one thing can topple them. So they have to just kind of always watch their back with this. We're seeing that in the Netherlands. The Netherlands was part of a 4-part coalition with Geert Wilders, and but Wilders, he really didn't want to be a part of this. He didn't get named prime minister, and so it caused an election to take place, and he lost ground. And it's kind of like we've seen this story before, where the people, they get a little bit ahead of themselves, and they think they have more power than they really do. And now this centrist party, D66, has got more control. Now, I don't know if that it makes it makes that much difference in the Netherlands at this point in time, because Wilders, I mean, he's not going anywhere. He'll still be a thorn in the side of the government, however it forms, nevertheless. And he's not down and out where he can't make a comeback from this level. He didn't get totally wiped out or anything like that, but
right.
it was a setback, but it was partly of his own doing, because of his own behavior kind of caused this election to take place.
Yeah, that's true. And it's another case where it always depends on the candidate. So the candidate has a lot to do with how these things come out. But it is a case where like you were saying about Argentina, 31% is bad until you consider that it was 240% before that, right? And then in the case of the Netherlands, you know, where he stands now is not good, but it's way better than the right has been in Denmark in a long time. So, I mean, in the Netherlands, in a long time.
Yeah.
So, all those little D countries, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
They all
but I
seem,
mean,
they all sound the same to me.
that's right, and that's right, and they, you know, but you have in virtually every country in Europe an ascendant right wing, right? The right is making a comeback. It was stomped out for 20 years. A lot of bad things happen. People are giving them another look. I think Trump's somewhat responsible for that, but not solely. I mean, there's other things at play.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at my my DNA profile and see. I don't think I have any Scandinavian blood in there. It's mostly Scottish and Japanese, but you know, maybe I have a leg to stand on there for, you know, 0.1, you know, to the extent of Elizabeth Warren and her Cherokee or whatever it was she was claiming. All right, here's a comment from Bob.
That's right. Evo Morales was finally thrown out, and that's right. Bolivia elected a right wing, or not right. He's not a right winger, but he's more our way than Evo was, and he is not a collectivist. He wants to disperse some of the things government owns. He's making some good noises. Maybe, you know, the victory in Argentina will inspire him. But that's a country that probably shouldn't be that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean that it does get encouraging. I mean, on the Morales thing when you see that happen, because I keep thinking it's like, you know, if these guys would quit propping up these corrupt, you know, left-wing communist dictators, they would be a lot better off. But you know, the problem with those countries too is that the people don't have much of a voice. You know, if they try to hold quote fair elections, if the elections don't go the way that the left, you know, these guys want, they throw the results out. You know, they jail the opposition, or they do things. You know, so they make up all kinds of charges so that they can keep their thumb on the people.
Right.
So
that's right. Same thing happened in Venezuela.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's
and probably Brazil for that matter. Looks like Bolsonaro was robbed too.
Yeah, you know, Bolsonaro probably robbed, but I mean, you know, it's just like you make up a bunch of charges so you can get him off the table. I can't say that he was the greatest person around, but you know, he was doing something, and he had a lot of support. And you know, anytime someone like that, you know, gains some momentum and support, the left, you know, in these countries, you know, they will find a way to get rid of you. I mean, if they don't find somebody to kill you, they will then jail you and put you in prison. Yeah, it's where you'll never be seen or heard from.
You saw, you know, they have this crazy judge who does this stuff in Brazil, rules that people can't speak and whatnot. And I guess Trump pulled his visa. He can't visit the U.S. anymore.
Yeah, you know, that's the other thing too, is that you have these countries where, you know, they've rigged their courts to just be, you know, to rule completely in favor of the lefties. So you know, there is no fairness at all for them. There's nothing for them. There's no way for them to appeal anything. Their judgment comes down. And you're pretty much stuck with that judgment. You know, whatever that judgment may be. All right. So this one I like in particular, and my wife did too. So, you know, he went off to South Korea, and, you know, he was overseas, you know, while the Democrats were griping. But Trump got one of these.
It gave him a crown.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that, look, I mean, you know, South Korea may be kissing up to Trump or whatever it is. I mean, it's a ceremonial crown. I mean, but it's like, how good is that? Is to get a gold crown from South Korea?
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you know, the left is probably losing. You know, they lose their mind. Yet another thing is like, wait a minute.
We should have covered this in our No Kings protest.
That's right.
We got to have another one.
So I'm proud of my my wife's motherland there for doing that.
Coming up with that one. Did you,
Yeah.
did you see that somebody had a poll, speaking of the No Kings, that yesterday they said that 1 in 9 Americans or 1 in 11 Americans went to a No Kings protest. I'm like, you're talking about 30 million people. I don't think so. All right. I don't even buy your 7 million people. You know,
Where
do you get this stuff?
Well,
there's a thing, and it's like pollsters talk about this all the time. And if you follow the pollsters, and I do, I shouldn't, but I do, they talk about this all the time. But there's some polls that are so far off that they actually harm the people who commissioned them. Right? The Democrats believe a lot of crazy things now because of polling that's not close to being accurate. So, part of me says go rescue them and tell them, but they're convinced that Trump is in the 20s in popularity and no one wants to do what he says. And the other countries are just laughing at us and all that because they have these polls that tell them that. And, it's not true. It's just simply, it's not there. And, at some point you're going to get a shock because you're going to, they're doing things. I think part of their shutdown strategy is messed up because of this. So they're doing things assuming they have a much higher level of support than they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in South Korea, I mean, the thing is that the leader there is not, he's not a conservative,
No,
so
not at all.
it's getting in line with Trump and realizing that you need to do this because he wields enormous power, more so than most presidents have in quite a long time here.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's really lined up these other nations to say, hey, you're going to play ball with me or what? I mean, we saw it just, he and, Trump and Xi have, been, they've been back and forth and, that looks like they've made some more progress. And, I guess China's going to buy some more, they're going to buy some soybeans, resume buying some soybeans and things like that. Well, that'll be good for the U.S. farmers. But, he's, enough talks and enough pressure gets put on these countries and they're like, yeah, we need to do something because, we can't handle, the tariff situation and all the other things that are just put economic pressure on, on the countries, and choking off their trade at this point. So they're willing to make some deals to get the trade flowing back again. Which is much.
Yeah, that's right. It really hurt China. We assumed that it would be, a lot of Americans assumed it would be harder on us than them, and that really hasn't been the case at all. So he has come back. Of course, the big thing is, there's something in that agreement about rare earth metals. China controls about 70% of the known reserves, rare earth metals, rare earth minerals on Earth. Japan controls some, but not that much. But we made a deal on that with them too. Like Trump's concerned about the chips. He's concerned we run out of chip making material. That's why NVIDIA, has become the first $1 trillion company. Right,
$5 trillion.
$5 trillion company. Right, because they're trying to, their chips. I mean, that's the essential ingredient in human life at this point. So. Literally for some people,
Yeah, NVIDIA is like it's just been an incredible story there with Jensen Huang and how that company continues to succeed to just unbelievable heights. And so they have this very advanced Blackwell chip, and Trump was also concerned about technology giving too much to the Chinese,
right?
But there were rumors that ran up, that pushed NVIDIA over the $5 trillion market cap, that Trump was going to allow NVIDIA to basically sell China a lesser version of the Blackwell chip, and that would obviously goose the business for NVIDIA even more. But yeah, NVIDIA powers so much at this point. In our lot, it's yeah. So
that's right. That's right.
Just what we said, right? But yeah, so NVIDIA is is everywhere, and that people don't really realize how much is a part of their daily lives.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, AI has goosed a lot of these companies. It's given a lot of froth to the market at this point in time. Not sure where the end point is. I do sometimes think I'm like back in the 2000s with this big market run up, but
Yeah,
but
my
you start.
daughter asked me, do I favor regulating AI? The thing, the bill that's before Congress. And it's like, well, I mean, I was here when they started the internet, and they had the same excuses where they wanted to regulate the internet then, right? And we said no, and look what we got, right? It's like 90% of the stuff that's sold that will be bought this year for Christmas, didn't exist. It wasn't invented 5 years ago. It didn't, you couldn't have bought it. So because we're developing so many things so quickly now. So, I'm like, no, don't regulate. I don't see the advantage. I think
Right.
I think it's private people like us calling out lies. Okay, when they lie to you, here's proof they're lying, guys. You can't believe everything you read on AI. That's the way to do that. To go after piece by piece, so people understand.
Yeah, I don't see the point in regulating AI. I mean, it's like if I mean, I toy with it a little bit and ask it for prompts for some things just to get an idea, and I look at it, and it's what I get back tends to be very rigid in a lot of ways, and so then but I think it's getting better. I th- you know but I don't take it as the gospel truth. It's kind of like, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Don't believe everything you read via AI. You need to go and kind of verify. But it's really handy for just pulling together an immense amount of material potentially for things. But you
Right.
still have to review it to say, is that if it's giving you some figures or some things, then you need to basically make sure that either that that's true or false or whatever, or you need to verify the accuracy of the statistics in an AI response, an article or whatever.
Well, the problem is like guys our age, uh, we knew like which roads, what major roads, which places. We had maps. You remember the journal map books? uh so we actually can navigate, right? And so now, like, our kids, they plug in the thing to their GPS and they just follow directions, right? And so they don't, like, they don't have any idea where things actually are because they've never had to just scope it out, right? They just turn left in 500 feet, or whatever it is. So we're kind of at the same thing with this. Is like, right now there are people who lived before AI, and so they know to approach it with a healthy amount of skepticism. And it got loaded up with every dot and tittle that's ever appeared in the New York Times. So every question you ask for, whatever question you ask of it, you're going to get mixed into the pile the New York Times' answer, right? Which is going to be reflect a certain ideological bent and whatnot. So, like, as long as there are still people around who remember the pre-AI days and can delineate and know when to, call them out and make them prove their facts, we're fine. But at some point, and people younger than us, if you're 14, you're starting to mess around with AI, you're not at all conditioned to question what the answers are. You're like, oh, there's 5 media sources. What do you mean it's wrong? Well, there's 5 hardcore leftists who deliberately misled you because that's what they do. Are we still going to be able to understand that, separate that out? That's why, like, the battle right now to make them, use all the content, use the knowledge that has been gained for the world by people on the right side, and delivering their answer as well as the left.
Yeah, my worry with this too is that with our young people is that with the rapid advancement of AI is that we are losing our ability on critical thinking. That we're ceding a lot of that over to AI, let AI do the work, and then we'll touch it up or whatever. But we're not, I mean, as you mentioned, plug in your phone or whatever, say where you want to go, and you just follow it. But if you were given a map, you're probably completely lost as to how to navigate a map. I'm thinking about Boy Scouts. One of the, I think wasn't one of the merit badges like orienteering or something you have to do.
Yeah.
Yet you need to use a compass and figure out. I'm just envisioning, where they're just like, why do we have to do that? We've got a phone.
Right.
That's all we need to do. It's like,
that's right.
That's
what makes that chip battle so important. Because
it's like, guess what? Your phone doesn't work in all the areas. If you're up hiking somewhere in the mountains, it's like, unless you've got unless you can connect to a sat phone or something like that, if you probably always should have a compass there just so you can have an idea where the heck you are. If you need to give somebody directions and your phone is either not getting a signal or completely dead, but those are the things where we've evolved, but I'm not sure sometimes whether or not we've evolved in a way that's a good thing for us. There are some good things in this, but it's just one of those worrisome things about that. But regulation, no. I mean, I'm against government regulation overall. I don't see the need for this. But I guess you saw that comment from Obama about the media, social media, that maybe that we need some government regulation and kind of all the kind of things. Like, what are you talking about?
No, we don't.
Well, why do people like Obama or AOC say this? It's because it's working against them.
That's right.
Right. When
they're more fine truth comes out, the worse shape they're in.
Right. Look, they were fine with it years ago when the Facebook and all Google stuff and things like that, all the results tended to favor the left. But times have changed now. With Trump, these tech companies have kind of lined up and tried to figure things out. Look at what Musk has done here with this Grokpedia. I mean,
right. That's really a shot across their bow there, because that's someone collecting the knowledge without the left-wing bias.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. I mean, it's tiny compared to Wikipedia, but over time, if he feeds it the right amount of information, it can grow to be a nice counter to Wikipedia, which it's like I hate using Wikipedia. I'm like, that's the only thing I might use it for really is like check on some Hollywood person or some media, something that is not
when people were born or died, or
that type of thing. Not a political thing, because exactly where you're going with that. I mean, this. So this is an interesting development. And it's just yet again Elon Musk going out there and saying, I'm going to continue to change things because I can't stand the way the world is. He may upset more car buyers and car owners again, but he's pretty secure. I think overall
he's made it work.
I have to say, on the aside too, is that he put out there that he's basically told the shareholders that they need to approve that $1 trillion pay package, otherwise he might consider leaving Tesla. And I don't have a problem with him saying that, because first of all, that pay package is something that has a fairly high bar for him to be able to collect. It's set up in such a way that Tesla would have to do remarkably well in order for him to collect on that. But it does give him an incentive to work like the dickens to try to get that stock price back up and everything like that, so he can qualify and get those shares and collect that money. I don't put it past him to do it, but it's not going to be easy at the same point in time. But why not? Why not tell people, so look, you want me to continue to develop, these ideas.
You're not going anywhere without me.
You've seen my track record in general, whether it was Solar City to Tesla to SpaceX to the Boring Company, all of these things, Starlink, all the things that he's done and developed. You see, in the robotics that he's working on, the driverless taxi. Now he's a little late to that game, but he's jumped into all these areas, and you're like, never write this guy off.
Don't count him out.
As I bought 6 shares of Tesla when it was. I should have waited because they went down even more after I bought them initially. I thought, I'll put like $1,000 into this thing for the heck of it, So, and I caught this wave super late. I'm like, after all the years that it had gone up, tremendously, and so it's bounced around. But now I'm up, like $250 or $60 a share on that. And I asked my wife, should I sell these? She goes, but she's now a big Elon fan. She goes, no, don't sell those shares. We're not even talking about a big profit here, but she is now really into Elon, and it's like, no, don't sell the shares. I'm like, okay, it was only $1,000 invested, so we had a low risk operation going on here. It either makes a decent slug of money, or the worst case, it loses $1,000. So that's not a high risk bet for me. But that's the stock volatility. I was like, I try not to pay attention to it because it zigs and zags so much. It's just kind of crazy. Anyway, so now government shutdown day 30. Okay, so the longest government shutdown was 35 days, and that was under Trump's administration. 2018, 2019. So
he was trying to build the wall. Wanted $3 billion to build the wall, and Nancy said no.
Yeah, so we're getting there, and both sides seem to be somewhat dug in. We've had 13 votes or so, and the Democrats just really won't give in. I guess Fetterman is about the only one that's switching sides.
There's 2 of them. There's 2 Republicans who are Democrats who are switching sides. I can't think of who the other one is right now. But there are 2 of them who are voting with us.
Was it Masto?
Huh?
Was it Masto or someone else?
I don't know. I can't remember.
All right.
But yeah, there's 2 of them, and there's one. Rand Paul's voting for the Democrats, of course.
Yeah.
There's some excuse why that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't. Rand Paul is Rand Paul. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of done with those guys. Right?
Yeah.
They make a lot of noise and they don't do anything. They can't build a coalition. They lose 400 vote margins all the time. They don't really make sense, right? It's like he has all this stuff on Fauci. He basically has proven that Fauci, lied about gain of function research, lied to get government money, lied about giving it to the Chinese, but nothing ever happens, right? Because it's Rand Paul, and he's off on so many weird, quixotic quests that no one pays attention to him, right? If you weren't such a flake, then when you have something that's serious, it would get taken seriously. So, and this is another. I mean, he has a million excuses, but he votes with the other side. So when you think we got to get up to 60, we got to get up to 60 with one Republican going the other way.
Yeah,
I wish it would happen too. I wish it would fail on Rand Paul, right? And then when you get him out of office once and for all, you get all those weirdos, Tom Massey, I guess Chip Roy's taking himself out of it, but they're not productive. They're on our side, but they're not on our side. They've always got an excuse, and they're always lecturing us, and we don't need that. Democrats don't have anybody like that. They don't have anybody sitting there telling them how stupid they are.
Yeah.
So Fetterman, I guess a little bit, but even he's polite about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I still think the Democrats they every time they take this vote and they reject it, they just continue to paint themselves into a corner on this. I still think the Republicans have the edge on this.
I do too.
And the pressure, will continue to grow here because we've got the SNAP benefits, and I think there are 42 million people that are tied to SNAP benefits, SNAP EBT benefits.
Let's stop and talk about that one just for a second. So you're saying 1 out of 9 people, more or close to 1 out of 8 people, right, in the country, we need to be buying their food for them. That's nonsense. There's no way that that's true, right? It's not. This is just not true. And I understand half of them are kids or whatever.
Yeah.
They're the kids of the lazy people, right? So no, first thing is get the eligibility levels down. As people could say, oh, if you work full time, you shouldn't need SNAP. Okay, if you work full time, we won't give you SNAP. Is that okay? Oh no, that's not what we meant. Okay, but that's what that's what the deal is. Like, you're making enough money, that if you manage it, you can eat, right? Then there's all kind of cheap food options. There's all kind of food kitchens and this and that and the other ways to get cheap food, right? But that's not what they want. That's work. That requires effort. And this is free, and you can sell it for X amount of cash and all this kind of stuff. So much fraud in it too.
Man, you're just such a mean conservative. I don't.
Yeah,
like
when you look at these things, it's like, like I say, it's like, remember we had the debate over the summer lunch, going to get free lunch at school during the summer. It's like, how can you be against it? It's so hard-hearted. Okay, if the parent never supplies a meal to the kid, why are we letting the kid stay in that house? Right? Because how wild and crazy and dysfunctional does a house have to be to where the parents can't provide any meals for the kids? Right? People, one thing is like, oh, we're doing lunch. We're going to save them a little bit of money, and the kid's not hungry during the day. Okay, I got that, right? Because you can be a responsible parent, and that could fit into, close an important loophole in your day or whatever, right? But this is not that. This is large scale. We're not going to make these people work. We're just going to give them what they need to be comfortable, and we can't live like that. The people paying the bills don't deserve that. The people in that situation don't deserve that, because when you do that, you're writing them off. Then they really don't have a way out. They're really just sitting there existing, and that's where you get all the anger and dissolution that you have now.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. No, because that was one of the things, is that when I saw this number and I thought, really? I mean, if that is the number, this is a shocking number. It's like, our system is broken if you're putting that many people on our welfare system. I mean, this is, your eligibility requirements, as you mentioned, things are not right here. I mean, this is
Correct.
We are not teaching any of these people anything about self-sufficiency. We should be teaching them how to survive and how to get along, how to do things. And yet instead, it is this continual cycle of dependency and this whole thing where it's just more and more families qualify for these benefits. And it's absolutely nuts to see this. So, as painful as this shutdown is becoming for a lot of people, and one of the guys I was having dinner with last night, so he's a government contractor with the Navy, and he works in a somewhat a secure facility. And he says the guards, security guards there, they're actually having a hard time getting to work because they haven't been paid. So now they're running out of money to buy gas for their cars to get to work. He's seeing some of these things firsthand. There are people who are definitely suffering for whatever reason. I mean, I'm assuming anyway, those people are just not paid all that well. But they're, on the other hand, is that people got to have to learn to be able to put things aside, and to there's going to be storms like this, where stuff will happen. It may not be a shutdown, but it may be a hurricane like that hit, Melissa, that hit the Jamaica, and when it upends your life, you have to try to figure out, what do you have there to rebuild with, and save this. I mean, I had a friend of mine at church was saying that he knew several members that work for the government that were starting to get stressed about this because it's been dragging on so long. But I think, as we've said before too, so this is an opportunity to take another look at, what is the size of government? What are we doing here on welfare benefits and
health insurance? Because like the
Right.
other side of their argument is they want us to subsidize people's health insurance payments, right? And it's like, for how long, right? If you could tell me honestly, okay, we're going to do it one more time and then we're done. Okay. But you can't tell me that, because you'll be back next year, because you're not going to do anything to make the program more self-sufficient if we underwrite it at the current levels, right? cut the current levels. Right? There's too many people on these programs. They're designed to take care of a very small fraction of the very poorest people who cannot work, and we have them, 1/8 of the country doing it. Yeah, that's right.
Very much so. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean the health insurance too is that they want to extend a program that the Democrats extended, right? Biden extended this program. They want to extend it even further. There's nothing wrong with Republicans saying no, because what you had done here for these enhanced benefits was that you basically took the income cap off, so that more people who had plenty of money, were now qualified for these subsidies, what was the CBO estimate? 350 billion over 10 years or something like that,
Yeah.
to do this, because they always score usually on a 10-year basis. It's like, what's the justification for this? There isn't any. It's like, this program was going to end until the Democrats decided to extend it. I think the Republicans have a responsibility to put an end to this nonsense.
Yeah, buy your insurance elsewhere. Get government out of the insurance business. Government is not responsible for you having health insurance.
Right. And we talked about this last week, I think, too. All right, I'm going to continue to roll through here. Layoffs, lots of layoff announcements this week. I think UPS had, what was it, 48,000 they announced, and Amazon at 14,000, and Procter and Gamble like 7,000. It's a different world out there, for getting a job or keeping a job. And something, you brought up earlier was AI. AI is having a huge effect, I think, now on our employment, situation, because a lot of these companies are basically saying, in their announcements, is that, AI is taking over a lot of jobs, and so and it's at a far lower cost than all these people, and so we're now seeing more. We don't only see stories about people who had jobs for a long time and lost their jobs, but we see young graduates who can't get jobs. I've got a friend of mine whose son got a job at Walmart, in the computer field, got laid off very quickly. He moved his family to Arkansas, and then within months, he got laid off. I've got my daughter-in-law's brother. We thought he was going to be okay because he did computer science. Hasn't been able to find a job since he graduated. It's been at least a couple of years. My nephew, he's got a job in the computer field, but he was a computer science major, but his first job was doing things for Tesla, actually loading information in for AI, for like Grok AI. But that was not what he was trained to do. But you take the job that you can get. He's now taken another job that's a little more up his alley, but it's not the company is a lot smaller, so it can still be very tenuous. So I don't know what the landscape is for employment out there for a lot of people going forward. It seems that we've just seen a huge change in what's going on here, especially in technology.
My thing is it's 1981 all over again. We're repairing the tremendous damage done by a sclerotic, sick Democrat administration before us. You're almost every day. The other thing you hear, you see the layoff notices. You also see, J.P. Morgan, Japan, South Korea. All these people said we're going to put trillions and trillions of dollars into investment in the United States. So they're citing those plants right now. No, they don't have 50,000 people working there yet, but they will. They will have thousands and thousands of people working there, but not yet. Right. So you're still in that, like, you had to knock out the old and bring in the new, and you're setting up the new. And, the first year of the Reagan presidency, it was just repairing messes. And now once you get the messes fixed and you enact the policy, then you get a supercharge. And you're starting to see that in some areas, like food costs down last month, energy costs down for the 5th straight month. Long-term, like durable goods are down, washing machines and whatnot. So it's starting to happen. It's not fully there yet, but it is starting to happen. Everything's trending in the right direction. That is part of why the Democrats really don't want the news to turn on the economy.
Right. Some more things as we roll through here. Gavin Newsom declared that Biden will go down as one of the most successful presidents in the last 100 years. I just had to throw that out there. Okay.
Successful at what? He did. He did redefine, what we need to do in terms of scrutiny on a president, right? Because, basically they had some, you got to watch those people who work in the White House, because in his case, they ran the country.
Yeah, this is from the man who wants to be president. At least in this case, he didn't throw Biden under the bus. So
yeah, I guess there's merit to that. But they're always trying to build these myths around these guys. Like Obama. What did Obama do? Oh, he rebuilt the economy after Bush, right? Well, no. Actually the legislation that rebuilt the economy passed under Bush. The TARP legislation passed under Bush. By the time Obama got to be president, we were on a glide pattern. All he had to do was not do anything, and then he gets to the end of it, and Trump takes over and he starts talking about, where are you going to get this 4% growth? You got some magic, ball or whatever you're going to pull it out of. So, and then Trump did. He had 4% growth by like the third quarter of his administration. That's 2017, when it was hard to do. So, but he's a great mystical genius. It's just, it doesn't have to match results, because they're interested in what things look like and not what they really are.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, Democrats never cease to amaze me with some of the things they come up with. I guess it's a way to keep Biden in the news. I don't know. All right. There's elections next week, right?
Yep.
And Virginia and New Jersey. Virginia race, as far as I can tell, by looking at the polls, Spanberger's got a fairly solid lead there, but Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General could go Republican.
The Attorney General is Miyares is pretty much going to win. He's up 8 or 9 points now.
Yeah.
The other two are within the margin of error. The Lieutenant Governor and the Governor. Lieutenant Governor, I think Republicans have a better chance. Governor might be a little bit bridged a little bit too far, but as I said last week, there's still only one mistake away. One misstep, and Sears will have it. It's that close. I don't know about New Jersey. I think he's close, but I don't think he's quite there. So
yeah, I looked at the polls this morning. I think it was like the final Emerson poll, and it was, it's about a 1% lead maybe for Sherrill over Citarelli. This is one that, on a polling basis is basically a dead heat.
Yeah.
And that's not the way.
A little closer than Virginia. I think probably half the margin of Virginia.
Yeah.
Virginia is about the solid 2 or 2.5.
Yeah. The polls I looked
at, but
yeah, the polls I saw for Virginia, and I looked, there was a site and it had like 30 different polls, and almost all of them, I'd say about 90% of them had Spanberger up by +6 or 7 or 8. And
that's the same people that told you Harris was going to win.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. The problem with these polls too now is just that you have to try to figure out how much the early voting is really affecting things. Now you can get counts, I guess, in terms of how many Republicans voted and how many Democrats voted. Assume, and then you're making an assumption that the Republicans all vote Republican, Democrats all vote Democrat, but that's not always the case anymore in these days.
Especially this one,
Yeah. So yeah, it could wind up being a lot closer, but I think Sears has done a good job of at least closing the gap, because I think she started off really, really slowly, and has made this a much more competitive race, and that's good for the other candidates. However she does, the other candidates are going to benefit by the fact that she's running a much better race than she was at the beginning.
Right.
I'm just going to finish up with a couple other things real quick here. Story that caught my eye: potatoes are now in vogue for Halloween, to give out for Halloween instead of chocolate. It is the strangest thing, and kids like it. It's like, this is bizarre. It's like, should I have just bought a potato or two and handed them out tomorrow night? I was like, this is so funny. I don't know. They,
You know what? Here's one of those things. Like, yeah, every year they come out and they say some weird thing is popular this year, right? But if you want to make your local kids happy, get just some candy corn or some Three Musketeer bars or something and do it right.
Well, it came up in this article from the Wall Street Journal, and they had this girl from 14-year-old girl from Provo, Utah, and she got a potato last year, and she was pretty happy with it, though she doesn't know exactly what happened to it. She thinks it got turned into a mashed potato. So
it's a good use if you can.
Yeah, it's a good use. It's probably healthier for you than the candy itself. Maybe people are turning to potatoes. There wasn't really any explanation as to why. I don't think anybody knows why, except maybe potatoes are cheaper than chocolate because chocolate prices have gone completely nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous how much chocolate candy costs these days, and it's just something. I mean, it's hurting Hershey's. I mean, Hershey's sells a ton of chocolate, but when the prices rise like that, people will shy away and they'll find other things to buy and replace the chocolate. So yeah, right. Candy corn, anything else that might just be cheaper. And I guess we'll finish with the World Series, which you start off with. Yeah, America's team, the Blue Jays. Yeah, okay. For Dodger haters, that's fine. I mean, I had said the Dodgers may win it in 6, but I was still I wasn't really super confident with that because I wasn't sure they were going to hit, and they haven't hit very well. But their pitching had done very well, but their pitching has somewhat unraveled. I mean, Blake Snell.
I would say this. It's probably going to be unpopular opinion, but the rule now is, they have game goes to extra innings. They put a runner on second base to start the inning, but they knocked that out for the playoffs. So you've had a few playoff games that are 16, 18 innings and so forth. And people would say it's real exciting and whatnot, and it is, But I mean, Laura, I kept passing out, but Lori watched the whole thing till 3 a.m. the other day, right? The 18 inning game, but that wrecks your pitching for several days down the line. They don't let you change your roster, right, to bring up anybody like that. And then normally in the season, you would see some roster moves made to get a reliever or two in who was fresh, right? And you can't do that now. So, and that's fine, but I think put the guy on second. I think it's time to just bend the knee and do that, get these games over with.
Yeah, look, okay, I'm a purist. I never like the ghost runner or whatever you want to call on second in general. But for this case, on something that's this important, it's like, maybe not, maybe not put the ghost runner in kind of right away. But if it gets to say like the 12th inning or whatever, if you can't decide a game by then, do something to get this game over with.
Yeah.
Because in essence, I mean, they played 2 games at once, and everybody's tired. Right. And it's like you said, the pitching staff, you wear them out, and it's like, now what do you do? And
it's a snowball thing because they used 21 pitchers or something, and 19 pitchers, I guess, in that game, that 18 inning game. So that's 10 by one team, 9 by the other. Probably, I don't really know for sure, but probably, right? So that's 1 starter and 8 relievers. Now, I think in both cases, some of the relievers were starters. Okay, so you've reduced their effectiveness the next time they start. You got them off their schedule, right? And you've used all the relievers have to come back the next day. And, somebody's got to pitch if you need a relief pitcher. So, the ones who were used least will pitch a second straight day, which means the next day they'll be pitching a third straight day. So it's like, you mess it up down the line for the duration of the series, really. I mean, it'll start to iron out. If we reach game 7, they'll be fairly close to full strength again. But right now you're still dealing with something that happened 3 or 4 days ago, and I just don't think I don't think it's helpful.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't explain why Blake Snell has been terrible so far in the World Series.
Yeah,
I mean, but I mean, both teams, their bullpens are somewhat suspect. Right. So when you go that long, this puts more pressure on them. It's like, okay, you've already taxed bullpens that aren't that great to begin with. Now they got to go back out and, if their pitchers get knocked out after the first four innings or something like that, you've got to find a way to get through that last 5 innings. And they're now, like you said, they're off their schedule, and they weren't that great to begin with. In some cases, it's like this was probably not going to end well for somebody will have an advantage. Somebody's just out of gas, and somebody will take advantage of that. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. Blue Jays, America's team. I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, if they win, I mean, they haven't won since 1993. I'm okay with that, and all of that, that. And hey, look, you've got George Springer up there. He played for the Astros. You could say, that's not
big
a bad
Astros star. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still Dodger blue because of my cousin was a big Dodger fan when I was younger. I'm not like the super rah guy, but I am. I will say, I'll throw in one more thing before I close too, though. So my wife, she goes, you got to come upstairs. You got to watch this. So she watches a ton of YouTube. She watches a lot of Mark Halperin actually, and he was talking to somebody, and they were talking about Tommy Lasorda and how popular Tommy Lasorda was in Japan, and so he happened. He Halperin goes. He says he saw this really firsthand at a World Expo in Japan in 2005, and that's why my wife called me up there. She goes and said, she goes, you got to watch this segment. Well, why she wanted me to do that was because we were there at that expo in Japan with Tommy Lasorda.
Oh wow!
And so what we remember very vividly, and I have a picture somewhere of Tommy Lasorda being completely mobbed by the Japanese, and he was just eating it up, and he was doing everything he could. He was treating them so good and everything like this. But the Dodgers, I mean, they there's a love for the Dodgers in Japan. There's more now, and once again now that's probably been even more rekindled, with Shohei and everything like that. But my wife's like, can you believe this? He mentions that thing where we were at 20 years ago. I mean, he was there. So it's so random.
You know what? It's funny you said that. I saw this morning on YouTube randomly out of nowhere. The first New Year's Eve that me and Lori were together, we spent it watching LSU, Illinois, in some bowl game. And I saw highlights from that bowl game this morning. Yeah, hey, that's right. Hey, Bob, we agree. Okay. I'm about to tell my Tommy.
This is the last comment I'm going to ever put up on the screen from Bob. Okay.
I had to tell a Tommy story now, and then we can go. But so if you ever watch when the people are burning the flag and Rick Monday goes and steals the flag.
Oh yeah,
watching the bottom of that screen coming up like that is Tommy. Because if those cops hadn't gotten to those people first, Tommy was prepared to beat them both right in the state. He's like hell, and he goes running out there. So yeah, he was headed to get those guys, and Rick Money saved him a lot of trouble by getting them into the hands of the cops before they get really hurt by Tommy.
All right, my last comment before I say goodbye is go LSU. You better find yourself a coach.
Yeah, it's interesting. They told the athletic director, "You're not part of the process here, bro."
Yeah, no, I mean, I saw that thing. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. So I don't know who is. I hope the governor says he goes, "I'm not going to pick the coach." I think the rumor is they already have a deal with Lane Kiffin, and it's all show anyway.
I saw Coach O would say he'd love to come back.
Yeah, he assistant. He's not head coach no more. He's just an assistant. All Tigers.
All right. Enough of all of that stuff. We had a lot of fun today. Hope everybody enjoyed that today. We thank you for joining us. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America. And we will see you next week. And we'll see what happens with the Virginia and New Jersey elections. We'll
That's right.
Be there the day after. All right. See you next week, everyone.